Hello, and welcome to the Laude podcast. I'm Ashley Roberts, Head of New TLD Consultancy at Laude, and I'm pleased to be joined today by our special guest, Kroopa Shah from Identity Digital. Kroopa is Senior Director for Registry Support and Management and is responsible for Identity Digital's Registry Services Provider services. Identity Digital is the operator of over 270 top-level domains and provides the technical systems to support a further 180 top-level domains, including new gTLDs, .brand TLDs, and ccTLDs. Kroopa has kindly joined us today to tell us about ICANN's Registry Service Provider Evaluation Program, which will be a brand new element of the 2026 new gTLD application process, and it will be kicking off later this year. So welcome, Kroopa, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Ashley. I'm happy to be here.
We may have some listeners that aren't familiar with the term registry service provider. So could you start by please explaining exactly what a registry service provider or RSP is?
Yes, of course, Ashley. But before we get into the weeds, let's give our listeners a little bit of context on where an RSP fits in the internet space. So think of the internet as a massive library that's filled with millions of books, right? Where each book represents a website. Now, just like in any library, we need to have an organized system to keep track of all these books so that people can find them easily. In the internet space, this is where the registry services provider comes in. They provide critical services where they're the ultimate librarian for the internet. They maintain a catalog of all of the domain names, and those are the addresses that you and I type into our web browsers. And then they make sure that these addresses are linked to the correct websites, so that when you put in the URL for your favorite site into your web browser, that is the site that you get to, right? Now, if you didn't have a registry services provider, finding that right website would be a complete mess. It's like trying to find a book in a library that has no catalog system, right? So RSPs keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes, irrespective of how complex things are. So for our listeners, the next time when you're visiting your favorite website, just remember that there's a registry services provider just like us out there working really hard behind the scenes to make sure that you get there without a hitch.
Thanks, Kroopa. That's a helpful explanation. So what relevance does an RSP have for prospective new gTLD applicants?
That's a great question, Ashley. And we'll get into that, but let's take a step back first and talk about what a new GTLD applicant is. So, over the years, ICANN has launched windows to provide people or corporation an opportunity to pitch ideas for a new TLD. Applicants for these TLDs, which are the new TLD applicants, they need to demonstrate to ICANN that they can manage their TLD if their application is approved. A registry services provider is a critical part of that application. So, if you're a person or a corporation that's looking to be a new TLD applicant in the next round, when that next window of opportunity opens, you are going to need to use an ICANN approved RSP. In other words, if you don't have an ICANN approved RSP, you will not be able to apply for a new GTLD in the next round.
Okay, that's helpful. So I think we've established what an RSP is, but can you tell us what exactly is the RSP evaluation program?
Absolutely. So the RSP pre-evaluation program evaluates the capabilities of an RSP, and it facilitates the approval of providers to provide the services to applicants for the next TLD round. So, if you're a new TLD applicant, you're going to need to ensure that your application goes through rigorous technical testing, right? Identity Digital can do that for you. You will also need to ensure that ICANN finds your TLD to be stable and secure. Identity Digital also does that for you. And then you're going to need to ensure that your TLD's operation is reliable, that the performance is consistent, it's trusted. And we also do that for you. The evaluation of the pre-evaluation program, it facilitates the testing and the evaluation specifically of the technical components to make sure that an RSP meets the very rigorous technical and operational requirements to support TLDs on an ongoing basis. Now, as part of this evaluation, RSPs can provide services for multiple TLDs once they are evaluated versus having to conduct technical testing for each TLD individually. And this is an important point because it is a change from how testing was handled in the last round, where each TLD application was subject to the technical testing, but that was irrespective of the fact that the test was very similar to the test that an RSP had already taken for other TLDs previously. So the process is expected to be more effective, more efficient as we move forward.
Thank you. Um, how many RSPs are there in the market today?
Well, according to the information published by ICANN, there are about 45 RSPs in the market that support gTLDs today. Now, many of those provide services for their own TLDs, and there are others like us who provide registry services for our own TLDs and then other TLDs as well. So overall, I think the takeaway is that there is a lot of choice in the market. But if you're thinking, for our listeners, if you're thinking about being an applicant in the next round or getting your own TLD, you're going to need an RSP. And these are some of the things that I know I would look out for if I was getting my own TLD. The first is experience launching and supporting new gTLDs. Then you want to make sure that your RSP has experience supporting different types of TLDs, whether it's brand TLDs, new GTLDs, geo TLDs, etc. I would also ask for a record of technical compliance with ICANN SLAs. Those are quite important for applicants as they move forward. And then you want to make sure that your RSP has not had any DNS downtime. Uptime on the DNS side is critical for the operation of any TLD, and you want to make sure that your RSP can support that. And then, of course, you want to ensure that, especially if you're going to be an open TLD applicant, that your RSP is connected to a wide distribution channel for maximum reach for your TLD. So, amongst the 45 or so RSPs that are operating today in today's market, Identity Digital meets all of this criteria.
So, do you think that the RSP evaluation program, when it rolls out, will see any new RSPs enter the market?
No, that's a really interesting question. I've been thinking about that as well. I think that we're going to have to wait and see as the pre-evaluation program kicks off later this year. I think that, or I expect that there will be some new entrants. It's a little bit difficult to say how many just yet. So I think we should wait and see what happens there.
Thanks, Krupa. Um, Trying to think about this in a bit more detail now. What do we actually know about the RSP evaluation program and how it's going to work?
So we know that if you are a new TLD applicant, you're going to need an approved RSP. If you are currently an RSP who wants to support new TLDs in the next round, you're going to need to have to pass a pre-evaluation program. We also know that there's going to be a fee for each RSP applicant, and that could be up to 92,000 US dollars per application, right? And there's a few tiers, etc. We can get into those details, but that's what it could be up to. But let's get into a little bit about how this is going to work, right? What does the process look like? So ICANN is going to make a portal available to applicants, RSP applicants specifically, to submit their applications to become pre-evaluated for the next round. Now, the process itself, the evaluation is split into two parts. There's a business and an applicant evaluation component, and then there's the evaluation of the technical abilities. ICANN is going to do due diligence on the applicant, including doing your compliance checks, legal checks, background checks, and then the applicants are going to need to submit fees for the evaluation. That's what we just talked about, a few minutes ago. Once they submit the fees and proceed through the background screening, the applicant can then submit the application and proceed through to the technical evaluation component. Now, the technical evaluation is expected to be quite automated. And once it's complete, then that's pretty much it. ICANN will issue a notification, let the applicant know that they've passed all the steps of the evaluation. And later this year, actually, no, sorry, later next year in 2025, the first list of pre evaluated RSPs will be published on the ICANN website.
Thanks. That sounds like a lot of work for you. Um, What is the current status of the RSP evaluation program?
Actually, there's been so much activity on the evaluation program. ICANN, with community input, has developed a handbook that describes the process for the RSPs to become qualified for the next round. Now, this handbook was finalized in May of this year and was submitted to the ICANN board for review in June, so just last month. Turns out that a couple of days ago, the ICANN board has actually approved that handbook. So this is now final, it's out there. And that is the book that potential RSP applicants should be looking at. They should be reviewing so that they understand what is going to be expected of them as they prepare for the pre-evaluation program. ICANN is also building some support to facilitate the testing of the technical components. So, the bottom line is there's a lot of work that's going on within the community, within ICANN, to get us to the 19th of November later this year when the program is expected to officially kick off.
Great. So now we know that the board has approved the RSP evaluation program. Do we know when it's actually going to kick off?
We do. So, if you are an RSP, mark the date on your calendar. It's 19th of November 2024. That's when the pre evaluation program is scheduled to start, and it's going to remain open until the 20th of May 2025. Now, ICANN is going to open a second round from that's going to start around April 2026 for 12 to 15 weeks. It's expected to be concurrent with the opening of the next round application submission window. So, there's two windows that potential applicants, RSP applicants, could apply within to become pre-evaluated for the next round. Now, keep in mind though that all of these dates are projected dates, and they are subject to change based on how progress is being made and the completion of the tasks before we get to that date.
Okay, so based on the various dates you've just outlined, when will new GTLD applicants need to select an RSP?
That is a really good question. So technically, you can select an RSP just prior to submitting your application, right? And like I mentioned before, ICANN is going to publish information about evaluated RSPs, that first list, on 9th of December 2025. However, my advice to future TLD applicants is that if you're thinking about applying for a new TLD in the next round, start looking now, right? Evaluate the options that are out there. We talked a little while earlier about the criteria for selecting an RSP. So look into that. Visit our website, identity.digital. Take the time now to make an informed decision so that when the new round rolls around, you're not pressed for time, or you're not making decisions because you are pressed for time.
Great. Thank you so much, Krupa. I really appreciate your time with us today. Hopefully, people have found this useful.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you very much to everyone for listening. If you have any questions or would like to have a chat with us, please send an email to podcast@comlade.com. That's podcast@comlade.com, and we'll get in touch with you. If you want to hear more on the next round of new GTLDs, follow our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.